I want to launch today, on this 28th of January in the year 2013, the Satanic Church Watch. I want to start a broadcast and an organization that will seek out, in America in particular and the world at large, of satanic churches, blasphemous churches that support abominable practices, that indeed thumb their noses at the word of God and go after filthy lucre as a matter of principle and teach others to do so. So we're going to call this organization now the Satanic Church Watch. Now, let me just state that I have served the church in America and worldwide over the past 5 years, warning them about Obama. If you'll allow me this one bit of reprieve, is that I do feel somewhat vindicated now. When Obama talked about gay and gay love and how it is to be preserved, he didn't just talk about gays as humanity, but he talked about their love and their ability to choose a love that God has condemned as abominable. But in one of the greatest times, a speech's most auspicious day of his life, he found the most important thing to talk about was gays and gay love and his ability to further that in a progressive way. Well, I feel vindicated, not as much as that will be coming forward in the next few years, that I spoke the truth. It was a very painful night on November 4th, 2008, with Obama's election, but he was not the president. He is not the president. And we've had a lot of battle scars. But I now believe there are a few people, and we're not trying to win everyone, who realize that the courage, the truth, is standing like a bulwark in face of all of what has happened over the past 5 years. With that, we want to now launch the Satanic Church. That is to say that we were right 5 years ago, and we're right now about the churches that have now supported and are preaching abominable practice and supporting them. I also want to give credit to Dr. Wiley Drake, pastor of the First Southern Baptist Church of Buena Park, California, and former second vice president of the Southern Baptist Convention for a goodly number of years. And also, Dr. Drake is now a member of the Outlaw World Missionary Church. I am his pastor, though he is a pastor himself at the First Baptist Church in Buena Park, California. And he wrote to me recently saying this: as the former second vice president of the Southern Baptist Convention during the year 2007, 2008, I'm very embarrassed at the pastor-in-chief statement issued by Andy Stanley. And I assure you that as a Southern Baptist since 1965, the pastor of the same Southern Baptist Church for 25 years, I do not agree with Mr. Stanley. I also want you and all my Christian friends and fellow ambassadors of Jesus Christ to know that I have only one chief, and his name is Jesus Christ. And this comes from Dr. Wiley Drake, who is also the chairman of the Congressional Prayer Conference of Washington, D.C. Thank you so much, Dr. Drake, for bringing this matter to our attention. Now, the Religious Today daily headlines of January 24th reads as such: Atlanta mega church pastor Andy Stanley, who gave the sermon at the pre-inaugural church service, suggested during his remarks that President Obama should be called pastor-in-chief for his leadership following the Newtown shooting. The Washington Examiner reports Stanley thanked Obama for his work after the tragedy when he spoke to the mourners, then acknowledged Obama's influence and prayed that the president would continue to leverage his influence for the sake of our nation, and that he should be considered the nation's pastor and the nation's pastor-in-chief. Now, there are a couple of things here. First of all, I fell in love with a pastor by the name of Charles Stanley. He preached a ministry on the radio and television called In Touch Ministry. In Touch Ministry just spread across America during the 80s and the 90s, and it was just a blessing. Charles Stanley is the pastor, or was the pastor, and is the father of Andy Stanley. They've gone different ways, but America used to refer to Charles Stanley as America's pastor, not Chuck Swindoll, not James Dobson, and not any of the others, but Charles Stanley, a very humble man, a Bible teacher, and one who I respect greatly, even at this hour, was called America's pastor. Now, for his son, Andy Stanley, who's gone off and who's become a mega church pastor right there in Atlanta where his father is, has not only spit in the face of the American people and in the eyes of God, but also has slapped his father, who once had the title America's pastor. That will launch us into the fact that we now need to know that there are satanic churches in the earth, and we need to be very much aware of them. Listen, Obama is the son of Satan. Now, I can say that with credibility 5 years running, and people are beginning to understand. Oh, I know that the majority of people think I'm just doing preacher talk. First of all, they're not willing to hear the truth. And I know that also. I know they're not willing to hear the truth. Moreover, there are many people who are not even willing to give me the credit of being right, mainly because I've come against so many of the things that they are fond of. So they would rather go to hell than say that I'm right. But Obama, everyone, is the son of Satan. We need to understand that. Also want to point out that A.R. Bernard, who is the pastor of the Christian Culture Center out in Brooklyn, New York, told his congregants during the time and after the election of Barack Hussein Obama that Jesus has sent Obama, that God has sent him. And he likened Obama as to Solomon, one who was wise and powerful and who was going to unite and build the kingdom and build the temple of God. A.R. Bernard, pastor of the Christian Culture Center out in Brooklyn, New York. Now, having identified these two pastors, I knew of Obama's evil then. These men did not hear from God. A.R. Bernard did not hear from God. God would have never let him say that. God would have never let a servant of him get caught in such an abominable practice as Obama. Obama supports both abortion and same-sex marriages and does it with a zeal that I've not seen before. I've not seen the kind of zeal that Obama supports same-sex marriage with, or with abortion, because we know that he voted for infanticide when he was a state legislator in the state of Illinois and out of the city of Chicago. So what we have to then come to terms with is this: does Jesus support or condemn abortion at the level that Obama supports it, or any level for that matter? And does Jesus support or condemn same-sex marriages? Now, we know that Jesus condemns same-sex marriage. We know that he condemns abortion. And for A.R. Bernard to say so 4 years ago, you give him a little bit of a benefit of a doubt. But for Andy Stanley to slap three people at one time, slap God, slap the American people, and slap his father, most of all, I think that was against his father, naming Obama America's pastor-in-chief. That was directly a word at his father.